Hello, I'm Richard Murphy, and I want to talk about a question that I've been asked about modern monetary theory. Now, it's widely said that modern monetary theory lets a government spend without limit, and some people are unfortunately believing this. What they are hearing is that because modern monetary theory says that a government can and does create money, and it does not require tax in the first instance to spend, it is therefore possible for a government to spend on anything that it wants without limit. Now, this is of course not true, but it is giving rise to a concern, and in this case a concern by an environmentalist, that there is no economic argument as a consequence against things like nuclear power, which was, in this case, their particular concern. Now, I'm not going to have a debate about nuclear power here. What I am going to say is that the argument that modern monetary theory suggests that we can spend without limit is simply wrong, because of course it is, and the reason why is very straightforward. The economy does not function without limit. And what modern monetary theory says is that the constraint on what the government can spend on is not created by a shortage of money, because the government can always create the money that it needs to do the activities that it wants to undertake, if, and that's a massive if, there are the real resources available in the economy to do these things. And if there are more things that the government wants to do than there are resources available, then it still has to make a decision on how to allocate resources between the various competing activities that are available for it to undertake. In other words, MMT does not change the reality of economic decision making, because once MMT has achieved its goal of full employment, and MMT helps the government achieve the goal of full employment by removing the constraint of austerity, which at the moment is where we have unemployment, and instead lets a government spend to the point of full employment without the risk of inflation. Once that point of full employment has been reached, then very clearly choices have to be made as to which of the various activities that government can undertake are the right ones to do. And if nuclear power is the wrong one to do, then it remains possible to say it should not be done. In fact, actually, MMT liberates us from the argument of we can't afford to do this, which is frankly a pretty crass one in most cases with regard to most schemes, and instead asks and even demands that people actually look at the real fundamentals of the rights and wrong of economic decision making. So, MMT is not a license to print money without limit. In fact, it may be the exact opposite. What MMT says is no government should presume it should be producing money without limit. And by explicitly acknowledging that fact, MMT does something that conventional economics doesn't do, which is actually have an inherent mechanism for the control of inflation built into it right from the outset. Now, actually, that is not true of most other economic systems, because they rely upon the control of interest rates to do that, whereas MMT says, no, much earlier in the cycle, there is a constraint, the real resources in the economy. And actually, I would suggest to you that, frankly, even when there isn't full employment, because MMT still functions when there isn't full employment, it functions all the time. It works right now in the UK economy, and we can see that because the government is creating money to fund spending without relying on taxation, as MMT says is possible, but there is still ongoing unemployment. MMT still says that decisions have to be made on the basis of the real economic priorities within the economy when to decide how to spend that money, rather than artificially saying, well, we can't afford to do certain things and that's the reason why they can't be done, rather than, well, actually they're just not desirable. Because many things which are said to be just not affordable are in fact entirely desirable. Many things that are done are not desirable. MMT forces politicians, governments, economists, and everyone who's concerned with those issues to actually say, what is the reason for this decision to spend on that thing? Because there are very real constraints in the economy in which we live, imposed by the number of people who work here, imposed by the amount of work that they want to do, imposed by our decisions on how long people are in education, how many people are in education, how long people are going to work before old age, and so on. And, of course, the length of the working week. So real constraints on the number of people are available. And also, of course, on the resources, the natural resources that are available to us to use before we deplete resources beyond the limit that we should if future generations are to have the opportunity that we have. All those things are built into MMT. Let's not pretend otherwise. This MMT, by focusing on spend first, by saying the decision as to how to allocate that resource is the priority for government, rather than worrying about taxation as the priority for government, it says we need to make good, sound, strong economic decisions on resource allocation to justify the actions that we're going to take to deliver the society that we want. And for that reason, MMT is a superior decision-making process than most others available in any other form of economic logic. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in what I've been saying in this video, please subscribe. There is a button below the viewing screen. If you're interested in what I have to say on Twitter, I'm at Richard J. Murphy on that medium. If you want to look at my blog, that's taxresearch.org.uk, and we have a Facebook page as well, Richard J. Murphy. So one of those things will get you more information on what this video series is about, and I hope I'll see you again soon.